Welcome to Understand All. I'm your host, Aslekeir Gairleif, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of the Boomerang Effect. So buckle up, put on your thinking caps, and let's explore this intriguing psychological phenomenon together. Picture this. You're trying to persuade someone, but instead of agreeing with you, they do the exact opposite. That, my friends, is the Boomerang Effect in action. It's like throwing a boomerang and having it come right back to smack you in the face. Ouch, right? But here's the thing. The Boomerang Effect isn't just some amusing anecdote. It's a real psychological concept that affects our daily lives in ways we might not even realize. From public health campaigns to political messaging, this sneaky effect can rear its head in the most unexpected places. So, what exactly is the psychology behind the Boomerang Effect? Well, it all comes down to a few key theories. First up, we have cognitive dissonance. In simple terms, it's that uncomfortable feeling you get when your beliefs and actions don't quite match up. It's like saying you're on a diet while reaching for that second slice of cake. We've all been there, right? But here's where it gets interesting. When people experience cognitive dissonance, they often try to resolve it by doubling down on their original beliefs. So, if you tell a smoker that cigarettes are bad for them, they might actually smoke more to prove you wrong. It's a classic case of the Boomerang Effect in action. But wait, there's more. We also have reactance theory, which suggests that people hate feeling like their freedom is being threatened. When we feel pressured to do something, we often do the opposite just to assert our independence. It's like when your parents told you not to date that bad boy in high school, and suddenly, he became even more irresistible. And let's not forget about self-perception theory. This one's a doozy. It suggests that we infer our attitudes based on our own behavior. So, if we see ourselves engaging in a certain action, we assume we must believe in it. It's like when you find yourself laughing at a terrible joke, and then convince yourself that it must be funny. But enough with the theories, let's dive into some real-world examples. And trust me, there are plenty to choose from. Let's start with a classic. Anti-smoking campaigns. You'd think that telling people about the dangers of smoking would encourage them to quit, right? Well, not always. According to a study published in the American Journal of Public Health, certain anti-smoking campaigns can actually increase smoking intentions among adolescents by a whopping 3 to 5%. That's right. The very campaigns designed to discourage smoking can sometimes have the opposite effect. Talk about a backfire! But it's not just smoking. The Boomerang Effect can also rear its head in the world of energy conservation. A study in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that when people are told they use less energy than their neighbors, they might actually increase their energy consumption by up to 10%. It's like they're thinking, well, if I'm already doing better than everyone else, why bother conserving more? And don't even get me started on political messaging. A study in political psychology found that corrective information in political messaging can actually strengthen misperceptions among the target audience by 5 to 10%. It's like trying to convince someone that the sky is blue, and they become even more convinced that it's green. But here's the kicker. The Boomerang Effect can even influence our dietary choices. A study published in Appetite showed that labeling foods as low-fat can lead to increased consumption, with participants consuming a staggering 28% more calories than when the food was unlabeled. It's like our brains hear low-fat and think green light to eat the entire package. And let's not forget about the world of alcohol consumption. A study in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol and Drugs found that warning labels on alcohol can sometimes lead to increased consumption among certain groups, with a Boomerang Effect observed in 15% of participants. It's like the warning labels are saying drink responsibly, but our brains are hearing drink more. It's a challenge. But the Boomerang Effect doesn't just affect our health choices. It can also influence our behavior in more subtle ways. Take recycling, for example. A study in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that messages emphasizing the importance of recycling can actually lead to a decrease in recycling behavior by 5% among individuals who feel overwhelmed by environmental issues. It's like the message is so daunting that people just throw up their hands and say, why bother? And let's talk about charitable giving. You'd think that emphasizing the importance of donating would encourage more people to give, right? Well, not always. A study in Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Quarterly found that emphasizing the large number of people who don't donate can actually decrease donation intentions by 10%. It's like people think, well, if everyone else isn't donating, why should I? But the Boomerang Effect isn't just limited to individual behavior. It can also have far-reaching consequences in the world of public health. Take vaccination campaigns, for example. A study in Vaccine found that certain pro-vaccination messages can actually decrease vaccination intentions by 6% among vaccine-hesitant individuals. It's like the messages are so forceful that people dig their heels in and resist even more. And let's not forget about the world of online privacy. A study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that messages emphasizing the importance of online privacy can actually lead to a decrease in privacy protective behaviors by 9% among individuals who feel overwhelmed by privacy concerns. It's like the messages are so overwhelming that people just throw up their hands and say, "Why bother trying to protect my privacy?" But here's the thing. The boomerang effect isn't inevitable. There are ways to craft messages that actually encourage the behavior we want to see. It all comes down to understanding our audience and tailoring our messages accordingly. For example, instead of using fear-based messaging, we can focus on the positive benefits of a behavior. Instead of saying, "If you don't recycle, the planet will die," we can say, "Recycling helps create a cleaner, healthier world for future generations." It's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference. And let's not forget about the power of social norms. Instead of emphasizing how many people aren't engaging in a behavior, we can highlight how many people are. For example, instead of saying 80% of people don't donate to charity, we can say 20% of people generously donate to support important causes. It's a simple twist, but it can have a powerful impact. But crafting effective messages is just the beginning. We also need to consider the context in which those messages are delivered. Are we reaching people at the right time and place? Are we using the right channels? Are we considering cultural differences and tailoring our messages accordingly? These are all important questions to consider if we want to avoid the dreaded boomerang effect. Because let's face it, no one wants their carefully crafted message to come back and bite them in the ass. But even with the best intentions and the most carefully crafted messages, the boomerang effect can still sneak up on us. That's why it's so important to constantly evaluate and adjust our approaches based on the latest research and real-world feedback. And that's where you come in, my curious listeners. By staying informed and engaged, you can help us all navigate the complex world of persuasion and behavior change. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. So the next time you find yourself trying to persuade someone, remember the boomerang effect. And more importantly, remember that there are ways to avoid it. By understanding our audience, crafting positive messages, and considering the context in which those messages are delivered, we can create a world where persuasion is less about manipulation and more about genuine understanding and positive change. And that, my friends, is the power of effective communication. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because when we get it right, we can change the world, one message at a time. So go forth and persuade, my listeners, but do it with empathy, with positivity, and with a deep understanding of the people you're trying to reach. And above all, remember to duck when that boomerang comes flying back at you. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through the world of the boomerang effect. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep persuading for good. And remember, the world is a crazy place, but with a little bit of knowledge and a lot of heart, we can make it a little bit better, one boomerang at a time.